Are you honestly going to accept staying in the 99% of athletes stuck for another season? Pushing harder, training longer, yet somehow not getting any better. Look, it's not your skills that are holding you back, you know that. Instead, it's 7 critical mental mistakes that keep most athletes from breaking through. I'm a mental performance coach for pro athletes, and I see these same mistakes every single day. So if you're ready to break free and make permanent performance enhancing changes, here's what you need to avoid. Right, let me guess. I bet at some point you've started a new training routine, changed up your diet, or committed to a new mental practice, but after a week or two, you're already frustrated because you don't notice an immediate difference in performance. Here's the problem. You're not playing the long game. Think about it like planting a seed. A huge thriving tree doesn't just sprout overnight. It takes months, years even, of sunlight, water, and consistent care before it becomes something impressive. And the same goes for your progress as an athlete. If you're constantly digging up the soil to see if the seed is growing, you're not giving it a chance to take root. Today's culture of instant gratification makes this especially hard. Social media highlights only the end results, and it's easy to feel like you're lagging behind. But real performance gains are like that tree, slow, steady, and requiring commitment well beyond a few weeks. So here's a technique to keep you patient. Focus on process goals rather than outcome goals. Instead of saying I want to improve my endurance by 20% in a month, set a goal like, I'll complete 4 solid training sessions every week for the next month. This keeps you anchored in the daily actions rather than getting discouraged by slow results. Remember, every workout, every meal, every rest day is like adding another drop of water to the seed that you're growing. Stick with it and you'll be amazed at what takes root over time. But patience isn't the only challenge athletes face. Even with the best routines, there's often something else that holds back most athletes. The need to feel perfect before they perform. Let's face it, as an athlete, it's extremely rare to feel 100% ready. Maybe you're tired, dealing with a small injury, or just feeling a bit anxious. But here's the trap. Most athletes let these feelings hold them back, thinking, I'll give my best when I feel perfect. But the truth is, that day almost never comes. For a second, let's talk about writers. Amateurs wait for inspiration to hit. They use writer's block as an excuse to avoid the page. But professional writers, they don't have that luxury. They put words onto paper every single day, even when it's painful to type out every single sentence. They know that if they only worked when they felt inspired, they'd never get anything done. The best athletes approach performance the same way. They understand that even when they don't feel great, they can still show up and deliver. So here's a technique to help you with this. Create a go-to pre-performance routine that locks you in, no matter how you feel. It could be as simple as a breathing exercise, visualizing past successes, or repeating a mantra to prime your mind. For a full guide on creating the perfect game day routine, I'll leave a link below to a video that I made on this a while back. But just remember, feelings are fleeting, but routines build consistency. Learn to show up, push through, and realize that you can still put in top performances on the days that you don't feel that good. And once you get to the point of consistently showing up, even on the days that you feel off, don't expect any praise for doing so. Because there's another common mistake that most athletes make. Expecting recognition. Here's a tough truth. If you're playing the game expecting validation, then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Many athletes crave acknowledgement from fans, from teammates or coaches. But the reality is, everyone else is just as focused on themselves. Teammates are wrapped up in their own performances, fans move on quickly, and coaches, they're under pressure to get results and just keep their jobs. They don't always have the time to notice every single effort that you put in. But the top 1% of athletes understand this. They know that by expecting nothing, they can't be disappointed if they're overlooked or don't get the praise that they had hoped for. This mindset makes them more resilient when setbacks come, and it keeps their focus on what really matters, performing at their best for themselves, not for the applause. To help with this, try this simple mental shift. Whenever you feel yourself craving recognition, remind yourself, I'm here to compete, not to be celebrated. Keeping your head down and putting in the work regardless of who's watching makes you more unshakable in the long run. Okay, so next up, when it comes to performance, another huge mistake that athletes often make is playing it too safe. You might think that sticking to what you know and avoiding risks is a smart move, but that's a surefire way to plateau. Think of a world-class chef, those that actually become world-renowned and gain Michelin stars. They don't achieve that status by following basic and common recipes to the letter. It's the chefs who experiment with flavors and techniques who create masterpieces that truly stand out and become world-class. In the same way, the top 1% of athletes embrace calculated risks in their training and performance. They're willing to step outside their comfort zones and try unconventional approaches that might seem daunting at first. To cultivate this mindset yourself, look for specific areas in your training where you can take a risk. Perhaps you can experiment with a new training technique, like incorporating some unconventional mobility exercises, even if they feel unfamiliar. Or consider testing a bold new strategy in your next competition. You might even challenge yourself to train with a different group or partner who pushes you in a way that you're not used to. This could open up your eyes to new methods and strategies that can elevate your game massively. Remember, safety might feel secure, but it's the strategic risks that you take that set you apart. So embrace the unknown and elevate your game. But there's a fine line between embracing risks and becoming consumed by your pursuit of excellence. And this brings us to a critical mistake that many athletes make: constant obsession. It might seem like relentless focus on your goals is the key to success, but this obsession can quickly lead to burnout. When you're fixated on every detail, every training session, and every outcome, you risk draining your mental and physical energy, leaving you exhausted and uninspired. Think about a high-performance F1 race car. The driver can't just push the accelerator to the floor for the whole race and ignore the need for maintenance. They know that for optimal performance, they must also pull into the pit for fuel, tire changes, and repairs. It's this balance of intensity, recovery, and repair that keeps the car running at peak levels throughout the entire race. And without those critical pit stops, even the fastest car will eventually break down. The top 1% of athletes embody this strategic obsession. They know how to lock in on their goals with laser-like focus, but they also understand the necessity of detaching and decompressing. This means setting aside time each day for recovery, whether it's through mindfulness practices, light exercise, or simply engaging in hobbies that bring them joy. By intentionally creating space to recover, they can maintain their passion and drive over many months and years, allowing them to keep grinding without hitting a wall. To adopt this approach, consider implementing daily rituals that promote recovery and balance. This might include short meditation sessions, regular social interactions with friends or family, or even scheduled downtime where you just unplug from the pressures of training. Remember, while your obsession can drive you to greatness, it's the strategic management of that obsession that keeps you thriving in the long run. Okay, so let's also get real for a second. Even if you are obsessed and love your craft, the path to success is often paved with monotony. And so most athletes make the major mistake of not embracing the boring. Think of all the boring elements of training and preparation, like long film sessions, repetitive drills, and those strict monotonous diets. Instead of embracing these routines, most athletes often complain, leading to a lack of commitment and ultimately poor performance. Consider a basketball player practicing free throws, putting up hundreds a day for months on end. Yes, it's repetitive and can feel tedious, but those countless shots are what builds up consistency and confidence during an actual game. When it's time to sink a crucial free throw, that practice pays off. An athlete who skips the boring repetition instead will struggle when the pressure is on, missing the chance to execute when it actually counts. The top 1% of athletes understand that these boring tasks are essential to their success. They recognize that watching film isn't just about reviewing your past performances, it's about learning and growing. Sticking to a strict diet isn't just about deprivation, it's about fueling their bodies for optimal performance. And those long hours spent traveling, they're not just a hassle, they're an opportunity to reflect, to strategize, and to mentally prepare. To cultivate a mindset that embraces the boring, start by reframing your perspective. Instead of viewing repetitive tasks as tedious, see them as crucial stepping stones towards your goals. Set specific intentions for each training session or film review. Celebrate small wins for sticking to these routines, like improving your technique or discovering a new strategy. Remember, greatness is often found in the mundane. By embracing the boring parts of your journey, you'll not only enhance your commitment, but also position yourself for remarkable success. But commitment alone isn't enough if you're ignoring one of the most powerful tools that you have: your emotions. If you're suppressing your emotions thinking that it makes you tougher, you're actually just holding yourself back. Emotions like anxiety, fear, and frustration are just part of the game. And if you try to avoid them, well, that's just a surefire way to sabotage your performance. Imagine a wave crashing onto the shore. As it builds, you can either try to swim against it, exhausting yourself in the process, or you can dive headfirst into it and let it carry you. The best athletes know that emotions are like those waves. They can either help or hinder you. It just depends on how well you engage with it and process it. The top 1% understand that feeling anxious before a big competition or frustrated after a poor performance doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Instead of running from these feelings, lean into them, acknowledge them, process them, and then channel them into energy for your performance. Otherwise, they just build up over time and result in big breakdowns where you finally just snap or lose it. And to cultivate this level of emotional resilience, you should watch this video next.